Yeah, so there is a dark side to positive confession. And the only way I can make sense of it is actually to go back to Genesis chapter 3. Because in Genesis chapter 3, we got the temptation of Adam and Eve that they could act and be like God. That was the original temptation. And I see that a lot of false teachings, they play into our desire to be like God. And this is exactly what I think we find with positive confession, is that it empowers our egos. It empowers our position in the world. And the problem is that that empowerment, it comes not on the devil's expense and not on the expense of sin. It comes on the expense of God, because we are placing ourselves in the position where God should be. For example, Romans 4:17, I comment that in another clip here, but Romans 4:17 is about God who caused things that be not as though they were. And God, Abraham had this great faith in God because God can create out of nothing by his mere outspoken word, outbreathed word. Now, in the prosperity teaching, in the faith and prosperity gospel, word of faith belief system and meta narrative, this is taken to be the believer's position, where now the believer can speak things into existence. And what happens then? Well, it is an upgrading of the human potential. It's an upgrading of the human position in the world to a place where actually only God is. Yeah, so apart from that pride and arrogance that actually positive confession can lead us into. I'm not saying that everybody who believes in positive confession is prideful and arrogant. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that there is a danger of the doctrine, of the practice of positive confession leading us into an area of pride and arrogance, and even making us, becoming vulnerable for the temptation of acting like God, or being like God. So I think we have to be extremely careful when it comes to positive confession. Also, another side, the dark side of it, is what I touch on many times, but it's that level of dishonesty. Not that you intentionally are lying, but you are portraying yourself in a way that is not according to present reality. And I know that within the word of faith, there is that distinction of realities where the spiritual world is more real than the natural world. So even when you're sick and maybe your nose is running and you're coughing and you say, I'm healed or I'm well, and somebody asks you, are you sick? And you say, no, I'm well. Well, many people say that's not deceptive in any way, because you're looking to the higher spiritual reality of you being healed. I know that that's how people come around it, but still, we experience reality as the way we experience it, and to not be able to put that into words actually can lead us into a level of dishonesty, whether that was our intention or not. So I think that's a one side of the darkness to positive confession. Another one, I think, is that level of fear. The teaching of positive confession, a dark side, is that it brings us into this world where our words are omnipotent almost, that our words create our realities. So I have to be so careful, because whatever I speak will happen. And in that worldview, fear is really a big thing. I still remember being part of this worldview and how I wrestle with fear and anxiety about words spoken over my life. Or I had to go back and think, like, today, have I spoken any words that will, cancel out God's blessing on my life? Have I spoken any words that have brought me, open a door for the devil? And people become, confession police and all this kind of stuff. So that there's a big amount of fear within this teaching. And I have seen often how the teaching and practice of positive confession is not just generated by positive faith and hope in the future. It's very much fear motivated. So, even people getting their eyes open to some of the misunderstandings within positive confession, they are still afraid of even though they see it, they're still afraid of moving away from it, because what if, because that fear has become so powerful and so ingrained through positive confession.